everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. And this is going to be my No Deck November confession. So I kind of tried to maybe a little bit participate in the No Deck November challenge, which was started by, please forgive me, I forget the name. It was started by somebody in the Hermit's Cave Facebook group, which is Simon the Hermit's Cave channel related Facebook group. Simon, however, did not endorse this in any way, shape, or form. Simon was like, nope, not for me. I was like, hey, that's a good idea. I'll slow down the deck purchases, have some time to soak up what I've got. And I had the very best of intentions. But it didn't go so well. It didn't go crazy. I didn't use it as an excuse to like hold up and then do a big binge buy or anything like that. But some opportunities did come along which have affected my No Deck November goals. So it sort of all started when my sister came into town about halfway through November. Actually, it was towards the first half of the month. And we went to Reflections, which is my local bookstore. And even the shop owner, Melissa, who totally knew I was trying to do No Deck November, was like, but Lisa, you said no decks in November. And I was like, yeah, but I really want this particular deck. So I totally broke it early. And I was like, well, I'll just let myself get this one. Isn't that how it always begins? Like, I'll just have one. I'll just get this one. It'll be fine, right? But actually, I sort of had in mind when I went there that I was kind of looking at getting the Vintage Wisdom Oracle because I really wanted a slightly vintagey feel oracle to go along with my Moonchild deck that I was expecting to arrive or had just arrived that I plan to work with. I believe in December I'll be working with that deck. So I kind of thought the Vintage Wisdom deck would go really well. But then I took a second look at this beauty, which is the Oracle of Mystical Moments by Katrin Wellstein. And it really caught my attention, and it really hadn't when I'd seen walkthroughs and when I looked at it before, but it really caught my attention this time. And I started looking at it, and then I started reading the guidebook for it, The Sea Witch. And I started thinking, wow, this is really beautiful. For starters, the artwork is stunning. And for seconders, I realized that this would also be a really perfect oracle beside an Alice-themed tarot. And I do have the Baba Studio Alice Tarot on pre-order. They are re-releasing it in 2019. And I have already pre-ordered that deck. And I thought, wow, this would be a really incredible deck to use next to the Alice Tarot. It's got that really fantastical, dreamlike quality to the imagery that I think would just be such a wonderful pairing. The coloring is totally different, but I like the way this thematically kind of goes with the idea of an Alice deck. But really what caught my attention was the guidebook, and I will read one for you so you kind of get the idea of what I mean. Because the images themselves, I was like, but there's so much to dig into and look at and perceive in each card. The keywords are a part of it, but there's more to be pulled from for sure. So for example, let's look at Lullaby. So we see a man here playing a cello that looks like it's made out of the sky. This is number 38. I just want to read you one card because it was really the guidebook that helped sell me on this deck, believe it or not. So the theme of this card is restoration, dreams, rhythms, and lullaby, which I totally see here. As dusk arrives, we notice a cello player about to play a lullaby to welcome the sleep we need so dearly. The cycles of day and night, light and dark, orchestrate our natural sleep rhythms. We give so much during the day. Night is our time to recover. On his instrument, we can see the moon and the stars. They are the guardians of our dreams tonight. Rest with nature's lullaby blowing gently through the window. Tomorrow, awake to all the days of your life. It's really beautifully written. They're not very long write-ups in the guidebook. The guidebook itself is kind of thin. Like there's only 20, let's see. There's a total of 44 pages, I guess, if you include the full about the author. And the pages, like the sections on each card are relatively small, like a paragraph. But there's enough there to really dig into that I really liked this. I will be working with it beside the Moonchild, so you'll get my more well thought out like experiences and review once I've worked with it for a full week. But this I totally caved for, and I don't regret it. I don't have anything else in my collection like this. I definitely had some room in my Oracle deck collection to acquire a couple more things before I was at sort of max capacity, and I'm still really not at max. My max is sort of as many as I can work with in a year, which since I rotate them weekly is 52. I have like 40-ish, I think, Oracle decks. So not so bad. So this was my first cave, and I really thought it was going to be my only cave because I had a bunch of stuff coming my way in November, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. But then, the thing is, I was going down to Seattle for Thanksgiving weekend to be with my sister, and we had planned to go to one metaphysical store, and it turned into 2 metaphysical stores, and I was in those stores for like 3 hours in total. So I would just like to point out, for starters, that I was very restrained, all things considered. However, and I did think I posted about this somewhere on Facebook, YouTube. I posted somewhere that if I was in those stores and if a deck that is on my very short, like 6 deck long wish list, of which like 3 aren't even released yet, if I stumbled on those decks, I would probably pick them up since I know I'm going to buy them anyways when November is over. So why not pick them up while I'm like there and can touch them and hold them? So here's what happened. You see, there's a story. So first of all, for an early Christmas, because my sister and I won't be seeing each other for actual Christmas, she gifted me with Ciro Marchetti's Tarot of Dreams, which is super exciting. We actually saw this deck together. She picked it up. I've looked at it a few times and kind of oohed and awed over it, but I already have Ciro Marchetti's Legacy of the Divine Tarot, and I was like, do I really need 2 Ciro decks? They're similar art. Do they fill the same niche? I was kind of on the fence, and I talked myself out of it because I was like, well, I like the cardstock. I like that they're bigger. I really like the artwork in this deck. I like the addition of the 4 Palace cards, which if you don't know, there's 4 extra cards, 1 Palace for each suit, which speaks to the environment of that element, which I think is really cool. But anyways, those points aside, I was like, I don't really need it, and I'm trying to back off my deck buying. So she bought it for me. So now I have it, which is awesome. And this is not part of No Deck November Breaking or Confessional because this was a gift and it didn't count. But she also got me another gift, which turned out to be a deck I already had, which, bless her heart, there's no way she could possibly keep up with my collection. So she did pretty amazing, even with just this guy. She got me a second one, and it turned out to be one I already had, so she was going to return that, and she said, if you see a deck you like while we're out shopping, I'll buy that one for you as well. Great. So we went to East West Books in Seattle, which is another favorite shop. And shortly after I got there, I immediately spotted Angels and Ancestors. I have been talking about this deck. I really, really, truly wanted this deck, and I really wanted it before my copy of Benebel's Spirit Keepers Tarot arrived because there is an angelic and guardianish energy to that deck from what I have been learning and reading about. And I thought this would be an amazing oracle to work with beside Benebel Wen's deck. It is the first deck of cards I've ever touched or looked through in my life that have the word angel anywhere near them or near the description of them that I have really felt drawn to. Usually the second I see the word angel, I'm like, I'm out. Because angels is just a theme that I've not really resonated or connected with in my life. Benebel's deck is something that is pulling me to it despite the use of the word angels. And this oracle deck did the exact same thing. I saw the name of it and like noped right out of there. But then when I saw a couple of videos of walkthroughs, and I believe one of them was Kelly from the Truth in Stories walkthrough, which I will try to remember to link in the description box below. And the other one, I can't remember, I saw another one as well showing this deck. And I was like, whoa. Because, and I'll show you a couple cards. Obviously, I picked this up. This is the one that my sister ended up picking up for me. I actually showed her 2 that I was looking at, and I said, which one? Don't look at the price. Just tell me which one you want to get me. And she picked this one, which I'm kind of excited. Before I show you the cards, I should warn you that I have already gilded this deck myself using a gold... Oh, it still smells like the paint. That's kind of amazing. I like the smell of paint. Is that like a weird thing? Anyway, with a gold marker pen... chisel-tipped marker, paint pen, sorry, that's what I was trying to say, a chisel-tipped paint pen in gold metallic. I think other people have used this method as well. The gilding is incredible, but this deck had to be gilded. I was surprised when it came out of the box that it was not gilded, because look at the backs. You'll see a little bit of the gold wrap from when I gilded it myself, of course, but the backs are this really beautiful blue with this gold, like, owl and shieldy kind of symbol in the center. And then also, when you look at the box, and when you look at that's the wrong part of the box. When you look at the box, you see the gold flash there. You get gold. It's not metallic, but you do get this gold of the titles of each card. So, like, I mean, it needed to be gold, right? What excited me about this is the angels in here are not even called angels on the cards themselves. They're called guardians. So here, for example, is the Protection Guardian, and it says drop your shields. And this immediately makes me think, oh, I can drop my shields because she's got me, or he's got me. I'll say she. And this is the kind of angel, and the ancestors too, like this, here's a hermit. These cards felt very powerful to me when I looked through them on walkthrough. The cardstock is matte. The artwork is incredible. It's beautiful, it's vivid, it pulls you right into the story or the world of the card that you're seeing. Here's a Direction Guardian, choose your path. The angels, such as they are, the guardians that you see in this deck, do not feel like the fluffy, pink pastel angels of the 90s, I think, that I associate, you know, in the early 2000s, that I think I associate as angels. There are also some powerful symbols. Oh, it's a drum. That's what's on the back of the card. So that's a drum. There's a set here of symbols. There's a set of ancestors, and there's a set of guardians, and there's also some elemental guardians here, so one for each element. And there are also seasonal cards. This deck has 55 cards, and I love every single one of them. There's not a single card in here that I'm like, nope. Like, they're just beautiful. The gilding took it right over the top. I did that when I was with my sister. We actually both picked up some gold pens, and she gilded her copy of the Wizard. No, what's it called? I think it's called the Wizard's Tarot. She gilded her copy of that, and it looked stunning as well. So that's really exciting. I am looking forward to working with this. And what's also cool is that there is actually an intention. On the lid of the box, you sort of have an invocation type prayer, and then in the bottom of the box, you have like an intention setting, which I see sort of like as a closing. So there's like an intention setting evocation, and then like a closing prayer. I see them as prayers or invocations in the box, which I think is really, really cool. And yeah, the guidebook is great. The cards are beautiful. I'm so happy to have this now. It was firmly on my wish list. Oh, this is going to tell you, because this is the first impressions. The guidebook's also not insubstantial. Like, it's fairly thick. And there are some spreads in here. And it's about 147 pages, including the About the Artist. And what's funny about this, with the spreads that are included, is one thing I said when I'd seen this deck online, is I said this would be great for working with past life readings. And sure enough, there is a past life lessons spread in the book. So that was just, I'm done. I'm sold. So this was also a gift, so it technically doesn't count. I'm only including it in this because it happened around the same time, you see, and I want you to see how restrained I actually was. So this one and this one were gifts. And this one was my first breaking of the No Deck November. But there's a little bit more to come. So while we were at that shop, I also spotted the other Oracle deck that is currently on my wish list. And that is the Spirit of the Animals Oracle by Jody Bergsma. I poured over walkthroughs of this deck and of Colette Baron Reed's Spirit Animal Oracle. And this was the one I decided I wanted. I definitely did not want both. I wanted one good animal oracle. This is the one that I decided on. I really enjoyed Jody Bergsma's artwork. And I felt like this deck I had the most resonance with most of the animals represented in this deck. There are two very important animals in this deck that I needed in my animal deck. One of them is the unicorn, and the other one is Ladybug. And I've talked a little bit about Ladybug's importance to me before, but it is really resonant. These cards are quite big, which I like because there's quite a bit of text on the cards. There is a animal name, a keyword, and then a few sentences. And this is a format that kind of works for me. It's a lot of extra text, and not all of it will apply when you pull the card. But there's enough there to look at keywords that jump out at you. There's enough to sort of consider what this card could mean for you in your day or in your life or according to your question. And this is similar to the format I have in the Oracle of Unicorns, and I really do find that I enjoy that. I would rather have too many words on an Oracle card than too few. So that's been my experience so far. Unless the keywords are very expansive, which I know I use that word a lot, but if the keywords leave a lot of room for interpretation and exploration, then a single keyword is great. But I don't want to see just the animal name. For example, like in my Wild Unknown Animal Spirit, that one is definitely a dust collector. I'm trying to connect with it more, but it's not happening so far. The artwork in this is a little bit more realistic looking, which I appreciate. It's not quite as fluffy. There's definitely a lot of native energy in this deck. I feel like the keywords are very resonant with what the animal is. I haven't felt like there's a disconnect there. So I really appreciate that. There is also dog and cat both in this deck. So the domesticated dog and cat, as well as wolf. And of course, we've got some Wildcats in here. I want to show you the unicorn card because, of course, to me, and I think there's also a dragon in here. There's a lynx. I really like the selection of animals. They're not the usual suspects necessarily. There's the unicorn. So beautiful. And the keyword is infinite possibilities, which is so amazing and perfect for this card. And I do believe there was a dragon. Maybe I'm making that up. I love the frog card, Prosperity. I love these frogs. They're so vivid and beautiful. I love it. Okay. Pretty sure I didn't make it up. Maybe I did. Butterflies in here. There's cat. Oh, maybe there's a dragon. There might be a dragon in the other one. I don't know. I looked at both decks over and over again. I've watched walkthroughs over and over again. These are the backs, which are just beautiful. I might actually edge this in a combination of these three colors here, the green, the turquoise, and the purple. Or I might just do a bright green to offset the edges. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. There's my ladybug again. It also does come with, I'm not sure how much I'll actually use this because I'm not usually big on these, but it does come with a large poster-sized paper spreadsheet, which does have the unicorns on it. So it looks like this. This might be really fun to hang on my wall. I'm not sure if I will put it down on the floor for readings, but it is kind of cool that it is there. I really like that, and I'm definitely going to play with that spread. So yeah, that's kind of a cool, I dropped it on the floor. As always, I dropped something on the floor. So this one I did buy. So this is my second No Deck November confessional purchase. So first we had that Oracle of the Mystical Moments, and then the Spirit of the Animal Oracle. Now this third thing was completely unexpected, unplanned, not even on my wish list, and I'll tell you why in a second here. We went to a second metaphysical bookstore, and I walked in and I was completely content with my purchase from the previous store, convinced that I was not going to buy anything else, or if I was, it was going to be like a little, something practical, like an incense sensor, which I kind of need because my burning bowl is not great for charcoal. Like, I'm babbling, but you get, I think, what I mean. I went in there with no intention to purchase. Just to look and to enjoy, maybe pick up something small, but no more decks because I'd just gotten the two on my wish list. I was good. And as I was looking at books, like just kind of randomly browsing, enjoying the space, my sister's at the counter talking to the shop proprietor. And I overhear him telling a story about how he has this one deck that he's brought in that was, he had to make special arrangements with the artist to bring it in. And I overheard something Otherworlds. And I spun on a dime. And I went over and I was like, are you talking about the Pagan Otherworlds? Yeah. Yeah, he was. So he had a physical copy. He had actually two left, I think, of the Pagan Otherworlds. Now, you guys, this is a deck that people have been telling me to buy since I started on YouTube and before. Talking about the cardstock is beautiful. The images are beautiful. It's just one of those decks you don't want to not have in your collection. This is the kind of stuff I've been hearing. And I looked at the images and I'm like, it's beautiful. It looks like a fine art deck. It's incredible. But when I looked at what it was going to cost me to bring it into Canada, I was like, I don't know if I love it that much. And so when I saw it in person and saw that it was accessible to me and for a pretty reasonable price, considering I was picking it up locally and skipping out on all the shipping charges, I was like, yeah, that's coming home with me. And he also did have, so here it is. So the Pagan Otherworlds. And he also did have the guidebook to go with it. This puppy, I feel like, was like $25 US, which doesn't seem like much, but it felt like a lot at the time because I was trying not to buy. But the guidebook is really, really, really well done. The cover is like really high quality. This book feels good. Like the paper feels good. And I'm sure there's a bit of like talking myself into the fact that this was worth $25 US, which for me is like 30 something Canadian. But it is a really well done book. And I was like, well, maybe I don't need the book. Like I was going to just buy the deck and kind of cheap out on it a little bit. And I was like, if I don't get the book, I'm going to regret it. And later I'm going to want it. And then I'm going to have to acquire it. And that's going to be more expensive. So let's just do this right now. So I picked up the book as well. What I do like is through the majors, they do a beautiful job of describing the card and the artist, like what you're seeing. But also sometimes they talk about sort of some things you can't see unless you get really close to the image. And then you'll find that on the following page, there's a bit of the image zoomed in. So you can kind of see what it's talking about. So I really liked that. And I also am super grateful that I got this because something I didn't realize about this deck in all the walkthroughs that I've watched, and I have all the way, by the way, read this full book cover to cover already before I even came home from Seattle. But one thing I didn't realize, I would see an image like this, and I would say, okay, that's the Two of Wands. And so it's like the Two of Wands from the Rider-Waite, but with the person removed. And that's something that I felt I picked up on from various walkthroughs I've watched of this deck. But what it talks about in the book is that you're the person. Like, you're the person in this card. And so suddenly these images with the person removed made sense. I was like, uh-oh, like, I'm in this image, I'm in this world, and I'm having this experience. And I really appreciated having that perspective, and I don't think I would have had that perspective if I hadn't have picked up and read the book. So that was really special to think of. So now when I look at these cards, instead of seeing a lack of person, I'm going to look at this card and think, oh, I'm standing there. Like, that's me looking up at all of these cups. This is me. This is me having this experience. And I think that's actually a really valuable thing. And again, something I wouldn't have had if I didn't read the book. So I am sharing it with you because if you've been on the fence about this deck, and that's one of the reasons why, and that really resonates with you, the idea that you're the person in the card, you're going to want to know that. So sorry if I just enabled anybody else, but I did open this deck from the bottom, which is something I've seen on videos to keep this pretty seal intact. I also realized when I picked this up that there was a really good chance that if for some reason I didn't resonate with it, it would not be that difficult to find somebody else who might want it. So I don't think I'd have any problem getting the reasonable amount that I spent on this deck back if it turns out that it doesn't work for me. And I think that made it a little easier to kind of take the plunge. So it comes with a significator card, the Seeker, which represents you, and I've always loved this image when I've seen it online. And then it comes with these Luna cards, which I realized make for all the phases because you can turn them upside down to represent any phase. And I may use this actually with my tarot card holder that I have in the back on my tarot altar there that I use for workings. I have a different little moon deck that I'm using right now to represent the moon phases. But I might alternate with this because these are really beautiful. By the way, the backings of these cards are really stunning. They're just like the box, although the box has a metallic sheen to the gold, and the backs of the cards are not metallic, but they are beautiful. The actual cards themselves are stunning. Pictures online and in videos just don't do them justice. Just like with the Baba Studio deck, they are beautifully painted and rendered. I have no complaints about the deck itself. It just looks gorgeous out on the table. And the other thing that I did the second I had this in hand and I had the guidebook was I looked up the guidebook definition for the Lovers because this deck is called the Pagan Otherworlds. And yet, I'm looking for it so I can show you. And yet, the image in this deck of the Lovers really throws me every time I see it in walkthroughs. I'm like, well, that looks a little Adam and Eve-y. That does not look very pagan. It's a beautiful image, though, isn't it? And so I read the book, and the book write-up totally satisfied me. It talks about how the apple is a representation of the fact that the romantic connection or love is not just about flesh. It's not just about desire. And same thing is about the snake. The snake is a representation of the man's desire. And so it talks a little bit about this understanding that love goes deeper than just that physical connection. And I was like, oh, okay, that's legit. There's literally no reference to Adam or Eve in the book, and there is an explanation for the symbology of the apple and of the snake, which I really appreciated because I was like, why is Adam and Eve in my pagan deck? And I had a little moment about that. But that moment is definitely abated, and that was one of the reasons why I'd taken this deck off of my wish list. It's been on it for a really long time. And nobody is lying to you when they tell you that this cardstock is incredible. It is like the most satisfying deck to shuffle. The most satisfying. It bridges like a dream. It like holds a bridge for a really long time. It's really, it feels really nice. Everything about this deck and its book feels very high end, and I'm very, very glad that I bought it. I have no regrets. It's one of those things where my eldest grandchild was like, basically, he's like, you're going to regret this if you don't purchase this. And I was like, you're right. I will. So I broke No Deck November for 2 Oracle decks and the Pagan Otherworlds. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with these purchases. There's very little left on my wish list now that I can't live without. I am planning, and we'll do more talking about this in the future on my channel, but I am planning to do a version of the depth year for 2019 where I go deep, not wide. And I will talk more about that in the future, so hang tight for that. That's coming up. But I'm very satisfied with these purchases. I really don't regret. I'm going to pull up the other one so I can show you. These were the things that I got that I broke my No Deck November for, and I don't regret any of them. These are things that are going to see a lot of use in my collection and that I'm really excited to be working with, and that for me is really the sign of a good decision made. So I'm pretty content with that. I feel like No Deck November really helped me to dig into what I have and what I really want. I have definitely culled my wish list now, having sat with what I have and thought about what I have. And there's not a lot that I feel like I really need to pull the trigger on. There's things that are pre-ordered that are coming next year. I'm very content with those things. I don't think there's a lot missing from my collection right now. The one thing that I would say was missing previously would have been a really good animal oracle that I connect with, and I have that now. And besides that, I can't think of anything I really, really need at this point. Or need is such a relative thing. Like, I have almost 100 decks. Like, need is not an equation. But the things that I felt really drawn to want to have, to pull for, to reach for, is kind of, I feel like I'm feeling very calm about that right now. And I don't think I would have felt that way if I hadn't dug a little deeper in No Deck November and really considered what I was purchasing or thinking about purchasing. So that was really useful for me. And ultimately, I think I'm really set up beautifully to go into 2019 and dig deeper into the current things that I have. I'm going to be doing on this channel some deep dive reviews on the various decks that I've worked with for a long time. And as I continue to work with the same decks over and over again, more of those decks that I have are going to move into that list of things I can do deep dive reviews on. So be watching for that here on my channel. I know that you guys really enjoy my weekly deck reviews because you get to hear my thoughts having worked with the deck, not just first impressions. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of that on my channel as we move into 2019. And that is it for now. That was my experience with No Deck November. It was really useful. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Even though I did end up purchasing a few things, it really did change the way I look at my purchasing habits when it comes to tarot. What things I feel drawn to get just to have versus things I feel drawn to get so that I can use. And I think that's a really important distinction for my own personal habits and practices. So I hope you have a really great rest of your day or weekend whenever you're watching this, and I will talk to you all again very soon. Bye!